Roommate gave birth to baby girl in my bed. In a previous life, my roommate secretly gave birth to a 5-pound baby girl in my bed. Upon seeing the child, I immediately dialed the teacher's number. For the sake of the school's reputation, the teacher asked me to hide the incident. I didn't realize that my roommate, who was hiding in the crowd, had stolen photos of the moment and posted them anonymously on the school forum. I exploded all over the internet and became the weird college girl who had a baby in her dorm room. The Facebook account was also picked up, and countless private messages from lewd men asking me how much it was for a night. In the end, the school canceled my guaranteed spot in graduate school because of personal integrity issues. Roommate picks up the slack and succeeds in securing admission to graduate school at this university. Afterward, she said to me triumphantly, "Trading a money loser for a guaranteed spot in graduate school is a wave I've earned." With my heart in my mouth, I pulled her down from the tall building in a single leap. Opening my eyes again, I went back to the day I found the baby girl in the dormitory. This time I called the police directly and my roommate panicked. A smell of blood came from my bed, and I lifted the covers with a shaking hand. The covers were wet, and in the center lay a tiny newborn baby girl. My mind reeled for a moment, and then a kind of post-hoc celebration came over me. I was actually reborn. In a previous life, I had just returned to my dorm room. With keen ears, I suddenly heard a low cry coming from under the covers. I bravely lifted the covers, only to find a newborn baby girl inside. In a panic, the first thing I did was call my teacher. Afterward, for the sake of the school's reputation, the teacher forbade me to disclose the incident. I foolishly agreed. Instead, housemate Vivian stole photos of the moment and anonymously posted them on the school forum. Because the photos weren't coded, I exploded all over the internet, and all of a sudden I became the odd female college student who had a baby in her dorm room. Later on, a lot of so-called knowledgeable people appeared and spread my rumors all over the internet. In the midst of these rumors, I was seen every day in and out of various entertainment venues with different men. There were even a lot of ambiguous photos that instantly confirmed the rumors that I was a slut. My account was raked over the coals, and countless lewd men humiliated me to the extreme. While I was making up my mind to call the police, the school's bulletin board for graduate school had removed my name and replaced it with Vivian's. I went to the teacher, but the teacher said with a disdainful look on her face, "Find more reasons from yourself in everything. If you haven't done these things, how come so many people come to slander you?" I returned to my dorm room disheartened. It coincided with Vivian's return to pack. Looking at her smug look, I couldn't help but speak. "Vivian, the baby is yours, isn't it?" Vivian laughed. "So what if I am? I'm a well-known honor student in the school now. Do you think the school will protect you or me? Trading a money loser for a guaranteed spot in graduate school is still a wave I've earned." In my extreme anger, I grabbed Vivian and headed straight for the balcony. Vivian wasn't as strong as me, so she was ripped off and we both fell together into a bloody mess. I didn't realize that God had the good sense to let me be reborn again to a time when everything hadn't happened yet. I settled down and was about to make my next move when the door to the dormitory was suddenly pushed open. Vivian came in from outside with her teacher yelling, "Grace, you actually had a baby in the dorm?" The girls who followed behind to watch the fun instantly let out sighs, and many even pulled out their cell phones and started recording. Vivian looked at me with a knowing look. "No wonder you've been running to the hospital lately. I think you went to get your stomach checked. But if you're going to have a baby, why not take an honest vacation? They're all adults, and people should be able to understand having a baby during college. Look at what's going on now. Born inside a dormitory. What are you going to let the other housemates do later?" A whisper came from the doorway. "Yeah, well, it's a good thing it wasn't my dorm or I'd have to diaphragm to death. This Grace looks honest, but I didn't think she'd do something like this." The teacher stepped forward. He seemed certain the child was mine. "Grace, why don't you go ahead and call the parents?" Vivian wrapped her arms around her chest. Her parents are just farmers, so I guess it'll take a few days to come over. The teacher got impatient. If you can't call your husband over. Seeing that I didn't say anything, someone mocked loudly. Usually I don't see her getting close to anyone. Wouldn't it be a wild seed that came out of a mess with some wild man? Young people nowadays really know how to have fun. I teased, I'm really curious as to why you guys just assumed I had the baby. Vivian was anxious. The child is in your bed. How dare you argue? I asked rhetorically, so you usually steal my makeup. Does that make them yours? The unspoken thing was revealed by me. Vivian was furious. Don't you slander me here. Moreover, look at this weak look of yours now. The baby must be born by you. I took out my cell phone and clicked on the police number. I didn't give birth to the baby, so since I don't know whose it is, why don't we just get the police to look at it? No. Vivian slapped my phone away. The others, seeing her in this behavior, looked at her with suspicion. Vivian blushed. Our school is in the middle of evaluating its merits. Aren't you ruining the school's reputation by casually calling the police? The teacher is unconditionally on Vivian's side. Yeah, if it's not yours, it's not yours. Don't make a big deal out of it. It won't be good for anyone. I can't help but sneer inside. This is bullying me. But I've died once and there's nothing left to fear. I put on an aggrieved look. So my innocence doesn't matter? The teacher snorted coldly. We don't know whose child it is yet. Are you innocent when you say you are? I looked around at the gossiping faces of the others. It's okay. I don't mind dragging everyone down with me since I'm forced to. I'm the one who gave birth to the baby in my bed? What if it's someone else who's slandering me? Vivian's been out at night basically every day since school started, so how come the baby can't be hers? And then there's Zoe, who goes in and out of my dorm room every day with the key Vivian gave her, so maybe the baby was placed in my bed on purpose? And the others, the ones who stay out at night, the ones who've been to the hospital for checkups, aren't they all suspects? Now the others were in a hurry. Especially Zoe. Don't you be ridiculous, the baby isn't mine. You're an outsider. You come to my dormitory for no reason. You say it's not. Do you have proof? Zoe turned red and finally took out her cell phone helplessly. I'll call the police if you slander me again. I spread my hands. It's not that I'm slandering you. Didn't the teacher say that innocence doesn't come with an open mouth? So prove it. Zoe was so desperate that she was in tears and ended up actually pressing the police. Vivian rushes up and tries to grab the phone, but instead claws Zoe in the face. Zoe's face instantly surfaces with 3 bloody marks. Zoe's a little Netflix, and her face is more important than anything. This was broken by Vivian, and she was so furious that she kicked Vivian in the stomach. Vivian had just given birth, and although she wore a blood-soaked look on her face, she was actually in a terrible physical deficit. She fell to the ground in one fell swoop, blood surprisingly oozing from the crotch of her pants. I feigned surprise. Vivian, why are you bleeding down there? Now everyone else, even if they were stupid, could see the abnormality in her. Holy shit, the baby can't be her, can it? Just now they wouldn't let Grace call the police. Now they won't let Zoe call the police. That's because they're afraid they won't be able to hide it if the police come. I remember the teacher was still called by her, so it's not possible that she had already devised a way to slander Grace, is it? The teacher quickly came out to round up the situation. Okay, the child's matter will be investigated by the school. Zoe, you first tell the police not to report to the police. The school will naturally return your innocence after the investigation. I pointed to the child on the bed and asked, Teacher, who will take care of the child until the results of the investigation? Zoe was eager to shake off the blame, even yelling, It must be the teacher who takes care of it. Do we students have to take care of it? I don't know how to bring up children. Just after that, the kid pooped on the bed, and that smelled like a biochemical weapon. I pinched my nose and nudged the teacher. Teacher, go clean up after the kids. The teacher dry retched a few times, waving his hands back and forth before finally relenting. I'll stop destroying the scene and wait for the police to arrive. The police came over soon after the 911 call. A policewoman cleaned up and covered the child with a small blanket. The other cop took out his notepad. You guys with leads first. Vivian was the first to raise her hand and offer, "Uncle Cop, I think the baby must be Grace's." I didn't expect the police to interrupt her. "You say yes? Don't talk nonsense and interfere with our work. Let's do it this way. Since the child is in your dormitory, then all of you go back with me to take a sample and do a paternity test for you first." Vivian's face went a shade of red and white. A phone call from the teacher called the other two housemates back, and a group of us from the dormitory roared off to the police station to sample them. After taking the samples, I raised my voice and asked, "Uncle Policeman, if the child is found out whose it is, what will be done with it?" The policeman thought for a moment. "This is a bit of a unique situation. We may charge the child's biological mother with abandonment, and the final decision will depend on the court." Vivian's face went even whiter. After sampling, my roommate Lynn suggested, "I'm hungry after half a day, or let's go out to eat before we go back." Vivian looked a little soulful on the sidelines. I have something to do. You guys go eat." After that, she pretended to be calm and walked in the opposite direction of the police station. The three of us looked at each other, and our perennial understanding made us follow Vivian without a second thought. Over there, Vivian first walked around the police station in a big circle, and after looking around and seeing no one, she then sneaked into the police station. After about half an hour, she walked out of the police station wearing a mask and holding her baby. "Click," Lynn said calmly, passing us the photo she had just taken. She bristled. "It's called being prepared." Despite the school's tight security, Vivian's birth in the dormitory hit the hot seat. I clicked on the comment section, and it was nothing but snark and all kinds of slurs. "No college girl is clean these days. Women without self-love are like rotten cabbage. Dude, look at her like this. She's probably all fucked up." I seem to have found the account of the person in question. Free goods for nothing. The malice that had been poured out on me in my last life had finally backfired. This is karma. I snuggled up under my new comforter and had the best sleep of my life. I didn't expect the screams to come from outside the dormitory just after dawn. Someone jumped. My heart thumped and I rushed to the dormitory floor. Vivian was seen sitting on the edge of the rooftop railing in a white dress with a pale, fragile smile on her face. The teacher sweated profusely and persuaded, "Vivian, if you have anything to say, come down and talk about it. Don't think about it. Life is more important than anything." Vivian shook her head ruefully. "My life is ruined. What's the difference between living and dying? Do you know what the internet is saying about me now? They call me a bitch and say I'm screwing around, but it's clearly not my fault." An uninformed person next to me exclaimed, "I thought the results of the police investigation hadn't been released yet, and the internet is horrible." Vivian is pretty pathetic too, taking the blame for nothing. Suddenly, one hand clamped down tightly on my arm. "Grace, you come with me for a minute." Ryan yanked me hard and headed straight for the rooftop. By the time we arrived, Vivian had already taken a step. She saw me and looked miserable. "Grace, I usually have nothing against you. Why are you trying to hurt me? How did I harm you? Did I post the video online? Or is the baby not yours?" Vivian choked, then sobbed, "The baby isn't mine. I could never do something as humiliating as giving birth in a dormitory. Why don't you believe me? I pulled out the picture Lynn had passed me yesterday, so why did you sneak around back to the police station yesterday to take the baby away?" Vivian seems to be covering her head like crazy and screaming, "It's not me. It's not me. Ayawa, what is it going to take for you guys to believe me? Is it my death that will prove my innocence?" "Enough." Ryan slapped me across the face. "Did you force her to die before you were satisfied? Grace, I didn't realize you were such a vicious woman. Even though I've been betrayed by Ryan once in my past life, it still hurts to do it again. Ryan is my boyfriend, and he actively pursued me for a while at the beginning of my freshman year. He was considerate of me, and I had never been in a relationship before, and my heart was soon in my mouth. But our relationship wasn't publicized, and in Ryan's words, it was, 'Love doesn't need to be proven.' I foolishly believed it. In my last life, I had Ryan's share of credit for sitting on the rumors of dormitory births. It was Ryan who jumped in at the height of public opinion and admitted that he had the baby with me. It caused me to become an instant target, and it's safe to say that he was part of what got me killed. Ryan turned his head to look at Vivian. His face was soft, a far cry from the way he had just slapped me in the mouth. He said gently, "Vivian, I trust you. Will you come down first?" Vivian seemed to calm down a bit. "Really? You didn't lie to me." Ryan smiled dotingly. "Of course it's true. I know how you are." Vivian was a bit impressed, but finally shook her head. "No way. It's already too late. Now the whole internet is saying that I'm the one who gave birth to the baby. My whole life is ruined. I might as well die." Ryan pulled out his phone, which was logged into my social accounts. "There's another way to get Grace to admit to this." My heart seemed to clutch at something. "Ryan, are you crazy?" Ryan said impatiently, "Vivian is still a young girl who has never been in love. Do you know how much this has hit her? What's more, you've slept with me. What's wrong with admitting to having a baby? Anyway, you can only marry me in this life. I don't even mind you." Ryan's burst of gibberish shocked me. After 4 years of dating this man, I can't believe I never read him. The teacher's eyes lit up. Yeah, and the baby was originally found by Grace, so it makes sense that she had it, right? Vivian looked at me with amusement in her eyes. Ryan saw Vivian finally calm down and rushed up quickly to pull her down. Ryan comforts her as he orders me, "Hurry up and post it." I sneered. "So you're going to force me to die, are you?" Ryan frowned. "Saving lives is important. Can you stop moving to death?" "Is that funny?" Someone downstairs yelled, "The fire department is here, get out of the way." At the rooftop entrance, the principal and a group of leaders also hurried over. The teacher smiled confidently just as he was about to walk over to take credit. I suddenly sat on the floor and let out a cry. "Ryan, do you have any heart left as my boyfriend when you unconditionally favor other girls?" "Teacher, you know whose kid it is? Why are you dumping it on me? It was hard for me to get into this college from the countryside, and you're about to ruin my future because of one child. Why do you guys have to force me to admit that I didn't give birth to the child when it's obvious that I didn't? Are you happy only if I die?" I rushed over to Vivian and grabbed her by the hair and ran towards the edge of the rooftop, smacking her madly in the mouth as I ran. "Vivian, you obviously had the baby. Why are you trying to hurt me? It's okay for you to stay out every night and force us to cover for you, but now that you've given birth in the dormitory, you're trying to pin it on me? Fine, since you want to destroy me, then no one can live. Die together." I tugged Vivian to climb outside the railing. Vivian was really scared now. She grabbed the railing by the death and squealed like a pig. "Help, help, help. I don't want to die." I yanked her and pushed her out. "I'm telling you, if you guys dare to push me, then I dare to drag you with me. Come on. Don't even live." "I'm not going to push you. I won't force you." Vivian closed her eyes tightly, not daring to look out at all. Her face was covered in snot and tears. "I admit that I gave birth to the baby. I was wrong. I shouldn't have harmed you. Please let me go. I won't dare to do it again." As soon as Vivian's words left my mouth, I took a brute force tug and pulled her down the tall building in a single leap. Vivian's mournful screams lingered over the entire campus. We jumped and were caught by the life cushion. A lot of people swarmed. Suddenly someone pinched their nose and said, "Holy shit, she's leaking." Vivian was in a trance and was just carried to the ambulance with light yellow urine stains. Despite being cushioned by a life cushion, I fractured a bone in my hand under the force of the violent impact. The school didn't dare to delay a moment, and the principal himself drove me to the hospital. The teacher followed and got into the back of the car, his face covered in beads of sweat. I pretended to close my eyes as if my heart was in my mouth, and as soon as I arrived at the hospital, I followed the nurse into the VIP room that the school had specially ordered without looking back. The teacher wiped the sweat from her forehead. "Luckily you're fine. If you have something to say, the school won't force you to do what you don't want to do." The principal snorted coldly. "You still have the nerve to represent the school? You're fired as of today. Get lost." The teacher's face instantly paled and flopped to his knees. "Principal, I was wrong." "Principal, give me one more time." Before he could finish his sentence, he was dragged out by the security guards who came in. The principal sighed, "Don't worry, classmate. The school will definitely give you an explanation." After the principal leaves, Ryan pushes in with his arm around Vivian. Ryan looked at me, grimacing. "Grace, why are you so paranoid now?" I almost laughed out loud. My boyfriend cheated on me and forced me to take the blame. What's wrong with me being paranoid? It's not a big deal. Just admit it. Why are you so calculating as a human being? No wonder you're from the countryside. Not wanting to argue with him, I asked bluntly, "Fart or get out?" Ryan turned red and suddenly stopped talking. Vivian rolled her eyes. "He's here to break up with you." I waved my hand. "Got it, get lost." Grace laughed. "You really are a gold digger. Did you know that the man has the right to recover his gifts now that you've broken up? Ryan gave you the necklace, earring, dress earlier, so we don't want your second-hand stuff. You just discount it back to us for a total of $30,000. I put my arms around my chest. $30,000, you say? Where's the check? Vivian looked contemptuous, holding a cell phone in her hand and didn't know what she was knocking on. If you don't want to pay it back, just say it. If you can't, you kneel down and kowtow to us, and this matter will be over. She raised her cell phone. Or else when it's posted online, it'll be more than just paying back the money. I looked over at Ryan. "So you two have been getting together for a long time? I remember you messaged me the other day ready to ask me out for $520, right? I wanted to ask if we're officially broken up." Vivian tightened her arm around Ryan. "What are you, obviously a boyfriend and girlfriend? You even have to push for sex. Ryan should be in love with me. To tell you the truth, our paternity test came back, and the baby is Ryan's. We're getting ready to get engaged in a few days, so if you know what's good for you, you'll pay it back." I looked to the phone next to me. "Everyone watch. This is the party that jumped off the building that day. A cheating scumbag, a fake jumper sister who looks at it and doesn't say it's a perfect match." Vivian lost her voice and screamed, "You're on the air?" I laughed. "You're only allowed to sneak a peek, but I'm not allowed to go live." Vivian was furious and blushing. "I'm telling you, you're infringing on my portrait rights. If you don't pay me $200,000 today, I'll go to court to sue you." I looked to Ryan. "How about we start by asking how much this boyfriend of yours has cost me over the years?" I pulled out a PDF of how many things I've given him over the years and thoughtfully included a screenshot of the payment and a small check. "A total of 1,030,000 renminbi. Bank or PayPal, please?" Ryan's cold sweat slipped from the corner of his forehead. "No way. Your parents are farmers. How could you have so much money? Aren't these A-okay?" I pointed to the Rolex on his hand. "A good you still wear every day? You don't want to pay back the money, do you?" The pop-ups were all ha 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 ha. I thought how generous this brother is, but I dare say it's only $30,000 for 4 years. Wouldn't have counted the money for the meal, would you? "The cheating man, hurry up and pay my sister back, or I'll open the box." Ryan looked at me with an inexplicable light in his eyes. "I thought you said your parents were ranchers?" I nodded. "Yeah, they're herding sheep in Mongolia, about 3,000 of them." Ryan's eyes lit up, and he wanted to say something. Vivian saw this and hurriedly pulled his hand. "Ryan, the baby should be hungry. Let's go back and feed the baby." Ryan was reluctantly pulled to the door by Vivian. I hurriedly called out to him, "Wait." There was a flash of delight in Ryan's eyes. I smiled slightly and took out the note I had written long ago. "If you don't have any money, write me an IOU first." Ryan's face went instantly cold. He signed his name on the paper without looking at it, then gave me a meaningful look. "Grace, you better not regret losing me." I hurriedly waved my hand. Some relationships can only be called case histories. After I was released from the hospital, the school quickly sent out notices that Vivian had withdrawn from school and Ryan had picked up a major disciplinary action in the form of probation. I had thought the two would settle down for a while. Little did I know that Ryan would block me downstairs in my dorm the day I returned to school. He looked at me. "Grace, I want to talk to you." I sat inside the coffee shop. Ryan looked at me with eyes full of love. "Grace, these days I finally realized that the person I love the most is still you." I know you can't let go of me after 4 years of relationship. As long as you are willing, I will cancel my engagement and be with you right away. I know your kind of family certainly do not want a bride price. Dowry also do not need a lot. I recently looked at a one-ring house. The down payment is only 1 million. You pay the down payment and then installment when we get married slowly pay. The car doesn't have to be too nice. Almost a 300,000 Audi will do. I puffed. Ryan, there's always a mirror without pee, right? With a dirty cucumber like you still want me to eat back? Want $1 million and don't ask yourself if you deserve it. Ryan completely stopped pretending and his face, which had always pretended to be gentle, instantly grimaced. Grace, I've already given you a chance. Since you don't want to be with me, don't blame me for being ruthless. When he finished, he clapped his hands. 3 lewd men suddenly emerged from a corner of the store. Ryan sneered, "She's all yours. Remember what I told you." After that, he walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. I took out my cell phone. The punk Gia laughed. "You die heart. The phone cannot call out. Here has long been installed signal shield." I shook my head. No, I was going to say, how am I going to transfer money to you guys without a signal? The punk froze. I smiled slightly. How much did he pay you guys? I'll give 10 times that. Finally, the punk looked at the transfer page and smiled a toothy grin. They hurriedly pulled out stools and sat down. "Sister, if you need anything, just order. The little ones can do anything." I asked, "What did Ryan call you guys for?" "He told us to fuck. Fuck you." The punk wiped the false sweat from his face and then told us to take some photos and videos to supposedly put on their engagement ceremony. After saying that, the punk let out a bah. I heard that they're going to do some kind of live broadcasting at the engagement banquet, and once this photo is released, your reputation will be ruined. Since they are unkind, don't blame me for being unrighteous. I handed over the flash drive I was carrying. "I'll show you how to do it." Vivian and Ryan on their engagement day. I entered with Lynn in my little dress. Vivian was afraid that people wouldn't see me and deliberately arranged my seat in the most conspicuous place. The engagement ceremony began, and the two quickly exchanged engagement rings as the officiant officiated. Vivian then took the microphone, her acting skills of feigning pity having long been perfected. Only with tears in her eyes, she looked at the camera and said warmly, "In fact, apart from wanting to get everyone's blessing for inviting you all to watch my engagement ceremony today, I also want to clarify one thing. While my acquaintance with Ryan was not honorable, as a woman, I couldn't stand by and watch Ryan get played by this dirty woman." Vivian suddenly glared at me, and the person holding the live camera had the good sense to give me a big close-up. Vivian sternly questioned, "Grace, do you dare say that you didn't screw around during your relationship with Ryan?" As soon as the words left his mouth, the arena erupted in an uproar. Inside the live room, Vivian's bought and paid for waterbenders came on at the right time. No man would just cheat on his wife. Hopefully. No wonder her boyfriend didn't want her, so she's another one who got played badly. I don't want this kind of woman even if she's rich. I put my arms around my chest. "May I ask if you have proof?" Vivian smiled smugly. "Of course I did." When she finished, she nodded to the mongrels on stage. The mixer puts the long-ago-made CD into the player. Nudity was projected on a giant screen on the stage. Vivian looked at me with mockery in her eyes. "You dirty woman." Before the words were out of her mouth, Ryan slapped her across the face. "Bitch. You betrayed me." Vivian turns around in fear, and there on the giant screen are images of her sleeping with different men. She has a lifelike red peony tattooed on her chest. The woman in the video is in the same position. The red peonies are so dainty that no one would believe it when they say it's a pee picture. Vivian screamed, "Stop it. Don't put it on. It's all fake." Vivian stormed off the stage. "Grace, you want to ruin my wedding, don't you? I'll kill you." I dodged and stepped back. Vivian bumped heads with an old woman. She looked at the man, and her face abruptly turned very pale. The woman grinned, revealing a mouth full of yellow teeth. "Good daughter, why don't you call your mom when you get married?" Ryan, who had rushed over, stared incredulously at the sound. What mom? Vivian's mom sees Ryan like he's some kind of meat and potatoes. She hurriedly took Ryan's hand. Aya, you're my son-in-law? Why didn't you tell us you were getting married? Other people need to get married. Vivian's child doesn't know any better. But why are you, the child of a serious family, so ignorant too? Saying this, she rubbed her fingers together. Let's do it this way. Since you've given birth to your children, we won't mess around with those falsehoods. A price of $500,000. Ryan snapped to Vivian, what's going on? Weren't your parents there? Don't they run a restaurant chain? Beads of sweat trickled down Vivian's forehead as she gritted her teeth. She's not my mom. Before she could finish her sentence, the old woman slapped Vivian's face. I raised you with all my shit and piss, but now that you've become hardened, you don't recognize me anymore? I can tell you, if you don't give me this $500,000, I'll tell you all your dirty stories. Vivian screamed harshly. Where's the security? Get this old woman out of here. Vivian's mom sniffed and went crazy. She pulled Vivian's hair and whipped her face frantically. Then tell me who is your real mom? When she finished speaking, her eyes locked on a middle-aged couple at the master's table. The middle-aged couple sweated coldly and hurriedly buried their heads to eat frantically. Vivian's mom rushed over with one strong step. Tell me, is she your daughter? Eventually, the fake Vivian's mom threw down the dishes in her hands. I'm not making this money. When she finished, she looked over at Ryan with pity in her eyes. Boy, to tell you the truth, we're both just recruited by your wife for $500, and we're not even some bullshit big boss. After that, she pulled her old partner and slipped away without looking back. Now the whole room was in an uproar. Ryan's face was ugly, as if he were a corpse that had been dead for 3 days. Vivian hurriedly kneeled on the ground and grasped his pants leg dead. Ryan, didn't you say you love me the most? I also gave you a baby girl. How about you give her this $500,000 first? I will live a good life with you in the future. Before the words were out of his mouth, a sorrowful voice rang out from off the field. Who do you say you want to have a good time with? My good sister. Hearing the familiar voice, Vivian went limp with trembling. The sudden change took away Ryan's ability to make faces. He asked, and who are you? The man didn't say anything and came right over and kicked Vivian in the chest. Vivian actually vomited a mouthful of raw blood. Bitch, I dropped out of junior high school before I graduated to work and earn money for you to go to school. It was hard to pay for you to go to a prestigious university, and you just dumped me like this? The man looked at Ryan, his eyes full of mockery. What did she tell you? A virgin? Never been in love? First time sleeping with a man? I'm telling you, this woman was slept with by me in order to cheat me out of my money in the first place. And that baby girl of yours, I suggest you get a paternity test yourself, just in case it's the old man's seed. With a cuckold on his head, Ryan's face twitched a little. Suddenly the nanny holding the child exclaimed, How come the birthmark on the baby's neck is exactly like yours? Ryan hurriedly peeled back the swaddling clothes to see that a large reddish-brown birthmark on the child's neck was carved from the same template as the visitor. Ryan's eyes grew bloodshot. Bitch, you dare to make me a cuckold? You dare to make me a receiver? I'm being mocked all over the internet for you now. I can't go back to my home. If you didn't say that you have a catering chain of parents, I wouldn't have thrown my weight around and married you. You've left me with nothing. He kicks and punches Vivian hard in the small of the back as he speaks. I don't know how long it took, but someone screamed, Stop fighting. Someone's dead. 10 minutes later, ambulances and police cars came roaring in. I wasn't going to pay any more attention to the aftermath of this. But Nija made too much of a fuss, and the official briefings are out. Vivian was beaten after giving birth and suffered internal injuries so severe that she had to have her uterus removed just after she arrived at the hospital. She learns that she is infertile and, in a fit of madness, breaks into Ryan's home with a knife and cuts off his balls. The two men tugged at the court, and each ended up with a 3-year prison sentence. As for the little girl, she is now being brought up by her own father and should be happy for the rest of her life. I handed over a check for $500,000 in denomination. The man took it without hesitation. He was silent for a moment. "Thank you, anyway." I nodded, just to each his own. The middle-aged woman next to her wiped her tears. I still remember when I adopted her, she was still a little girl who would only hug me and call out for her mom. At that time, we were orphans and widows, and we gritted our teeth to give her a bite to eat even if it was difficult. When she went to junior high school, she heard somewhere that our family could not afford to send her to school and that she would be sold, and at a young age, she cajoled her brother into working to earn money for her education. In the end, her brother was so softened by her crying that he secretly went to Guangzhou without my knowledge and worked 12 hours a day just to pay for her to go to the best private middle school in the city. Then I had no choice but to think that it would be okay to raise her as a daughter-in-law, not realizing that. "Mom, stop it." The man coldly interrupted her. "We'll have a better life without her." His mom wiped a tear from her eye. "Enough talk, let's go home." After saying that, the mom hugged her granddaughter and the son assisted the mom and just disappeared into the crowd.